Good morning, everyone. I first want to thank Baker Hunt. I have lived in this community forever. I used to live on Sanford a million years ago in my first cute apartment. But this place is absolutely spectacular. So thank you for having us here. And thanks to Creative Mornings for inviting me. So, golly, when I got the topic of love, first I sort of freaked out because I thought like, oh my God, I got to get a boyfriend. As though somehow then that would be the accurate narrative to share. And then I kept trying to drop into the idea of what love really means to me. And what I've landed on today is really thinking about love and the creative process and the sort of the body profile of what love feels like. And I think for me, love equals flow, and which is a super important part of the creative process. So what I hope to do today is I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story, because a lot of what I know now about flow comes out of the fact, mainly from the time where I was absolutely the polar opposite. Super unwell, super stuck, super constricted in all ways. So what I have to offer is not interesting, I don't think, if I don't talk about where it came from. So I'm going to talk about my story. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've learned as a mind-body trauma wellness person about how kind of the neurobiology of habituated stress and trauma, and then a little bit of sharing experiences, which is my favorite thing to do, so that there may be a bit of embodying for all of us together. So I'm going to start. One of the things I get to do now is every morning I sit in Washington Park, Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 8:30, and host City Silence. So I am my best self when I'm in practices. So I would like to have all of us start with a little meditation and a poem by the amazing Hafiz. Hold, please. So much of what I've learned is that the awesome aspirations we all have for meaningful lives have been the same aspirations of people for centuries and centuries and centuries. So Hafiz is a Persian poet, a Sufi poet, who's a contemporary of Rumi, who was writing in the 1200s, 12 to 1300s. And the poems that I'm going to read today are by Hafiz. And it just is stunning how gorgeously contemporary they are. So I'd like to lead us all into a little bit of body-based mindfulness practice, and then I'll read to you. So start. So I'm going to just grab this chair because it's nearby so I can sit down and settle in with you. So the first thing we're going to do is tell our bodies and our minds that we are ready to ground and center. So let's put our feet on the floor. And you're going to go ahead and put your hands on your lap. I like to put my palms up because it gives a sense of opening and sort of a surrender. And it tells the body something new is happening here. I like to close my eyes, but if you're not interested in closing your eyes, you can focus on something that's not moving. So the idea is to set your gaze on something. You're going to lengthen your spine. and you're going to find your breath. So you're going to notice where your breath is moving in your body. There's no right or wrong here. You're starting to do your own internal inventory of understanding your body responses. So notice where you feel the rise and fall of the breath. You might even start to notice pulse or heartbeat. You may not. If you notice that you wish you'd had more or less coffee, or you wonder how long this is going to go, just notice that you are having a thought. Your thought is as important as your breath, as important as your heartbeat. The important thing is to distinguish them from each other. Listen to the symphony of the world around you. So the bird, the air conditioner, the traffic, it becomes a soundtrack for your imagination. So I'm going to read to you from this book called I Heard God Laughing, and it's by the poet Hafiz. Hafiz writes, I know the way you can get. I know the way you can get when you have not had a drink of love. Your face hardens, your sweet muscles cramp. Children become concerned about a strange look that appears in your eyes, which even begins to worry your own mirror and nose. Squirrels and birds sense your sadness and call an important conference in a tall tree. They decide which secret code to chant to help your mind and soul. Even angels fear that brand of madness that arrays itself against the world and throws sharp stones and spears into the innocent and into oneself. Oh, I know the way you can get if you have not been out drinking love. You might rip apart every sentence your friends and teachers say, looking for hidden clauses. You might weigh every word on a scale like a dead fish. You might pull out a ruler to measure from every angle in your darkness the beautiful dimensions of a heart you once trusted. I know the way you can get if you have not had a drink from love's hands. That is why all the great ones speak of the vital need to keep remembering God, so you will come to know and see him as being so playful and wanting, just wanting to help. That is why Hafiz says, bring your cup near me, for I am a sweet old vagabond with an infinite leaking barrel of light and laughter and truth that the beloved has tied to my back. Dear one, indeed, please bring your heart near me, for all I care about is quenching your thirst for freedom. All a sane man can ever care about is giving love. So let's go ahead, and as a transition, you're going to rub your palms together, making heat. You're going to cover your eyes and give yourself a little face massage to open your eyes back up to the here and now. Fantastic. Beautiful poem, eh? Yeah, it's just, that book is blowing me away these days. Hafiz. Okay, so I'm going to back up. Well, let me see. I'm going to start. I'll tell you a little bit about the things I'm doing now, just a little bit. It's an awesome year. It's been an awesome many years. So I am currently, my daily work is to bring wellness practices to other people. I am the founder of True Body Project, which is a mind, body, social, emotional, trauma-informed identity program. It started out as a program for girls, and now it is gender neutral, and it won the best youth development program in the state of Ohio last year. And we're now working with boys and girls ages 5 to a lot, whatever age, we still need this work. I'm also the founder of City Silence, which I started last year, which is now an international network of people who come to beautiful spaces like this and host public gatherings of mindfulness, meaning we sit in silence together and help calm our nervous system in community. So as a not independent, solo monk-like venture. And one of the things I'm super stoked about is I created a program last year called Mindful Music Moments. And I piloted this program with the Academy of World Languages in Ohio, which is one of my favorite schools. If you don't know about it, you should. It's pre-K through 8. It's a Cincinnati public school. It's in Evanston. And over 50% of the students there are English as second language students. And most of them are refugees representing over 30 countries, right here in Cincinnati. And it's a fantastic school I've gotten to do a lot of work for, and I know how much trauma and stress is in that particular school population. So last year, in partnership with the symphony, we created a program where every morning, over the morning announcements, a piece of classical music plays, and the entire school does a ritual of calming and centering to a mindfulness prompt, not unlike what we did this morning. So now, starting in September, August and September, we have over 30 schools across 6 districts across 2 states who are joining into Mindful Music Moments. So that's 10,000 plus students. We're working with the symphony, we're working with the opera, we're working with the Contemporary Arts Center to provide new music by living composers. Plus I have a mindfulness book for children coming out in the fall. I'm flipping a little house in Bellevue. I have an awesome life. So I have an awesome life every day where I get to practice this sense of connectedness with others. But again, it didn't start out that way. I definitely was not in the kind of flow that I'm in now is super stellar, but it didn't arrive accidentally. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of where I started, what happened, and then what changed. So I grew up here in Cincinnati, over in the Turpin. Where's my Turpin Hills colleague? There you are. We went to high school together. And I was really lucky in that I was an agile. I grew up with parents who cared about me. We had means. I had an able body, agile brain. You know, I think all of us have things that happen in our families that may or may not be, they may not be perfect scenarios for creating resilience and wellness. But because I work with so many people who have profound trauma, I know that my challenges are my challenges, but relatively not the worst of the worst. So, and I was the kind of kid who, like a lot of kids, like the kids who are back there doing their Star Wars camp, I just had a great life. I had the idea that what I wanted to do, what I thought about doing, that I could make happen. And like around in the developmentally in like the 3rd, 4th grade, unless something bad has happened to us, profoundly traumatic, It's where we're often at the height of it's like the age of reason, where we feel as though if we want to be a cowgirl, a veterinarian, a president, all those things are possible. For girls, we're not yet sexualized. Again, that's being encroached upon by our weirdo society. But our bodies work, our brains work, we're full of joy, and we haven't started to minimize ourselves. So at that moment, what happened to me is that I had 2 grand mal seizures. So I was a kid in school, and all of a sudden I hit like my funny bone, once in the 3rd grade, once in the 4th grade, and had 2 grand mal major seizures. So I don't remember them, because you don't, but my classmates sure do. And what they did at the time, in order for me to not have seizures, which I didn't have any more seizures, they put me on phenobarbital, which is a super serious drug. So while I wasn't having seizures, what I was also not having is a connected engagement with the rest of the world. So I don't really have much memory, aside from things that people tell me about from 3rd, 4th grade to about 7th, 8th grade, when I decided, as the early WebMD I was, to come off my own medication without somebody telling me to do so, which turned out to be okay. I didn't have any more seizures. But I feel like what happened is that I kind of came out of this phenobarbital coma into a body that was changing from hormones, and I had had 0 experience managing the somatic, the first-person sensations of my own body. And everybody knows that adolescence is its own hell, but I didn't have any experience of sort of leading up to it, somatic experience. So the way I felt in my body at the time was basically like, oh, no way. I do not want to feel any of this. So I tried to manage and feel better, which everything we do to feel better. Every behavior you see is human beings doing the very best they can with the resources they have to feel better, to try to re-regulate a system, to try to make the system do what it was doing before. So what did I have at my hands when I was 14? Wheat thins, bread. So my first line of management was through carbohydrates. Then I discovered cigarettes, which were pretty good. Then I discovered alcohol. So it was kind of awesome because from a re-regulating standpoint, it gave me sort of both like social confidence, sugar, like all kinds of things were going on with it. And so I became, by the time I was, I'm gonna say, when I got into my first apartment over on Sanford, which is like right over here, super cute 3rd floor, I was pretty much a daily drinker. And the thing that's crazy about that, A, is that I did it, but also that it wasn't until my late 30s where the world's perception of my problem caught up with me. You know, when you're reasonably attractive and clever and affluent and probably white, you can get away with a lot of dysfunction. And I think a lot of things in our world are super permissive around certain behaviors that we see that seem like fun, or it might not be too bad, but I'm not blaming other people. But there was a long period where I was still achieving, but also digging myself down into a hole. But in that period, I had a son who's now a 29-year-old man, which blows me away. Super awesome young man. I worked in advertising as a writer. Then my first job in the arts was I went to work for the Contemporary Arts Center as, in PR and marketing a week before the Mapplethorpe trial. So it was my introduction to the arts, and also to being able to, as a thinker, as a strategist, not getting in the weeds, but being able to get up to 10,000 square feet and look what's happening. But I also fell in love at the time with contemporary artists who are making art. So for a long time, I basically just hung out with artists. Hung out in the way that single women do, which is often by trying to muse myself into some part of creative living. But I was so mesmerized by people who wouldn't just have an idea, but they would do whatever it took to execute that idea. I was a gazillion million ideas. When you drink every day, when you smoke cigarettes, when you do a lot of caffeine and you have my brain, you're not short of ideas. But I was short on practice. I was short on moving those into any kind of reality. Short as in, like, no way was it ever going to happen. So I became super enamored with contemporary artists who had that drive. Then I got to, I did all kinds of cool things. I was a writer for museum projects. I worked for other museums. I created traveling art exhibits that traveled around the world. I got to do really cool things. But what was also happening at the same time is I was digging myself more and more into this hole. So I was drinking daily, doing a lot of smoking cigarettes, not eating, like basically, you know, blood sugar going like this, nervous system going like this. And then what starts to happen when you have a dysregulated nervous system is there's sort of two profiles that happen. One is you start to, or they bounce back and forth. You sort of fold in, the constriction folds in on itself, and you start to self-loathe. I did a little bit of that, but mine was really what I extroverted my not cool, my dysregulation, and decided that no matter what happened, it was not my fault, it was your fault. It was always the knuckleheads around me who didn't understand the genius of me, which is a tiring position for everyone involved. So let's see, where am I? I'm in my mid to late 30s. So Carla is actually helping me. I'm flipping this little house over in Bellevue, so she's talking to the gas guy to tell him he can go over there to keep that project in flow. Okay, so I'm in my mid to late 30s, and I'm realizing that I am profoundly stuck. So what that looks like is I get up in the morning in order to not have a panic attack because of how much I have messed up my own biorhythms. I would take medication. Then I would start drinking coffee. I wouldn't eat. So then, and smoking cigarettes. And then I'd start to get anxious, so I'd probably take more anti-anxiety medication and maybe eat somewhere in the day. Every day thinking, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be like this, I don't want to be like this, and then creating the same cycle, which ended with, you know, drinking every night to oblivion. And I'm still in a relationship. I'm living in Cleveland with the then director of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where like I have all these, I'm still reasonably visibly perceived as someone who's got their act together, and I was just absolutely soul sick. And I didn't have any of the sort of bottoms. I mean, soul sick, stuck. Not raising your voice, not connecting with other people as its own bottom, but I didn't like drive a car into a building or something. But luckily I ended up deciding that I needed to get sober, and I don't know how or why. But I ended up deciding in about November of about 19 years ago that I wanted to get sober, and I did so that same year. I took a little break to get through Christmas. Yeah. So, but it worked, luckily. And what happened is the first day, a friend of mine said, oh, you have to talk to Jane Morris. So Jane Morris, I should say Jane M, I don't know, Jane Morris. She was someone I knew from the community, and she was this weirdly, it just occurred to me, short, white-haired person, I just changed my hair, who was a beacon of light and love. And I was like, why do I need to talk to Jane Morris? And they said, well, she's sober. And I was like, no way. Because in my mind, I crafted sober people in the same way as I crafted, you know, God-fearing people or other people as just sort of like not cool at all. So I was like, Jane Morris is sober. So I went to her house. She opened the door and she said, she said, I haven't thought about this in a long time. There's so much love. And she took me to my first meeting, which in Cleveland, which is near Akron, where AA started. It was the second oldest women's meeting in the world. And basically for a year, I sat in a room with super awesome women and cried and listened to them tell their tale of hardship to love, and just sort of relearned how to be a woman, a human again. In the same week, I had so betrayed my body that I checked out of my body. I could not bear the feelings of being in my skin. And so I started taking, my mother kept saying, you're gonna like Pilates. And so my mother, who only always saw exactly what would be good for me, and who I routinely dismissed up until the day she died 3 years ago. I mean, not in the very end. But I had that habit that daughters have with mothers of just being like, But guess what? She was right. So I started Pilates in the same week I got sober. And it was literally like, if I lived here, the Pilates studio is where that beautiful back structure is. So for me, it was this, I can't distinguish the 12-step work of learning to understand how I think about the world is not necessarily what's happening. And in fact, I should be suspect of my thinking. But also I began to reordinate, and re-coordinate my body, and really start to understand how everything goes together and celebrate my own coming together. And it was really those things, those practices of 12-step work, body work, breath work, that allowed me to have the discipline and the presence to be able to start to be someone who is not so self-absorbed. Addiction, depression, unwellness, a dysregulated nervous system creates a narcissism, because we're really trying to figure out what the hell is going on. And so that perseverating, that feeling self-conscious, all of that is really indicating that there's some imbalance in the nervous system. So once I started to have the practices of someone who is in the world, creating daily practices of connecting, breathing, moving, what it felt like for me is I went from here, occasionally going like, oh, they're an idiot, oh, they're an idiot, that must be why I feel bad, to basically being like, oh, people, whoa. And then being in 12-step meetings, every day I would go in like she's gonna tell me something. And 5 minutes later, I'd be sobbing because they'd spoken to the truth deep within me. So it was this humbling, extraordinary practice. And so everything I've done since then is really building on, I had cool experiences. I had a son, cool things happened. But I also understood that I didn't write and publish my first novel until I was 38. I didn't start to execute what I feel like are my human gifts in the world till my late 30s. So basically now I don't want to waste any time. I'm really trying to do sort of my own personal science experiment on how much I can be connected to others, how much I can be present to understanding what it is that I can give to the world, so that, and that changes. I still love to put written work out in the world, but I really feel I'm my very, very, very best self doing these one-on-one or group experiences where I get to hold space and listen to you and you and you and you. That really makes my heart sing. That makes me feel better. So what time is it? Someone? Quarter till already? God. You guys. So, let me just regroup. Okay. So, a hair, a teeny little bit. So I have the privilege now of studying, I have an expertise in helping, I understand how stress and trauma habituate in the body. And I work with people across a wide spectrum of having had stress and trauma, which basically chronic toxic stress, which I suggest we are all capable of having in our contemporary world, fueled by the awesome digital domain. The way that lays into our body is the same as if we had been in a car wreck or if we had had a traumatic event. And I get to help people sort of bring the body along for the ride in trying to create changes in moving more into a more meaningful life. So, in short, I could talk about that forever, about what is the sort of the body profile, but I'm going to break it down into its most simplest parts. Love, flow, is openness. Addiction, depression, perseverating thoughts, low self-esteem is constriction. And the more we start to have body-based practices of understanding what those patterns are in our own body, the more joy we can have. Also, there's Megan and DJ are putting out these super cool lists right now. If you don't know them, meet them. But there's, if you don't have to have a practice like a monk to start to have a different somatic first-person profile in your body. You can do it by going on nature walks, laughing with a friend, trying to think of things that move you into right action, engaging in activities that make you feel the downbeat, the love, the openness, which we're going to feel here in a second together. So I'm sorry, I really imagined that I would have more time. I always do. So, in short, the neurobiology, which is really cool because now neuroscience and brain imaging shows us what Hafiz knew in the 12th and 13th century, what yogis have known forever, that when we're engaged in breath and movement, when we are deeply connected with others, when we are at Star Wars camp, when we are really engaged in simple, mindfulness is the term, but I think it really used to be mindlessness. Like when we're engaged in very human activities, we start to reboot not just the musculoskeletal system, but that also activates the chemical and hormonal system. And I was just reading that the difference between sort of sex drive and love and how it works in our brain is that sexual attraction is all dopamine. And dopamine is the same thing that we're getting when we look at a text, when we're in Facebook for 27 hours, somehow in somebody's wedding portfolio who we don't know. That's dopamine. Opioid, the part of the brain that manages the sort of, in the body, altruistic, meaningful love, is the part of us that allows us to have meaningful long-term relations. And that's really the part of the brain that's more of sort of the opioid, the exhale, the downbeat. So I feel like in our society, we're becoming more sort of like love seekers, we want instant gratification. As young makers, you're all being told that you need to sort of brand yourself before you even be yourself. I mean, I know sometimes too, I'm sort of like, you know, I'm thinking like, well, I hope someone's getting a photo of this so I can put it online, because like if there isn't an online record of me doing this, was it, I mean, what was it even, what even happened? Like, did it even happen? But because I sit in the park every day, this actually happened where someone came to sit with me and I was super excited to see them. And then I close my eyes and I meditate on that feeling. And it's nice. Then they left and I looked later and I saw that they had tagged me that they were there. And then I closed my eyes. And that feeling was actually more exciting to my body than being with them. That's messed up. Titillating. It's that dopamine. So we're all fighting against that dopamine. So, and what that requires is daily practices of fun and beauty and connecting to our body. So before it gets, I want to finish with an experience. Everybody has to stand up. Okay, so we're going to do a quick experience of our own body. So somatic. When I was first hearing the word somatic, it was like I remember being watching soap operas and someone would have a hysterical pregnancy and it would be called psychosomatic. So in my mind, and many people's minds, somatic is like not real or not good. It's like made up in your mind. The way wellness people think of somatic is essential to change. Somatic is your first person experience of yourself. If that doesn't match what a third person observer can think about and help you feel, then it's not going to be, change won't be made. Does that make sense? Somatic is your experience. So we're going to do an inventory of your experience with flow. Flow is love. Feet out, arms wide. So close your eyes if that's comfortable for you and take a little inventory of what you feel in your body, of your body. It could be aches, pains, temperature. There's no right or wrong, it's just a little inventory. Now you're going to open your eyes and we're going to wake up the energy in the body. So we're going to start with a little face massage. This is the Ohio River Valley, so there's lots of sinus stuff that happens here. Also, our primary emotions are encoded in our face, so we don't want anything to get stuck. We want to have them all. All right, so ears, pinch the ears. In Chinese medicine, Eastern traditions, the ears are like the feet, seen as portals to the whole body. So just by pinching your ears, you can wake up your whole system. Wake up the brain, front brain, back brain. Good, then up and under the chin. Those of us over 35 know that oxygen somehow ceases to flow here somehow. And now we're going to wake up the energy in our body. We're going to tap like this. I'll try not to do it on the microphone. And then to the belly. Good. Here and here. Good. You're going to go down the outside of the arm, up the inside of the arm. Good. Down the outside and up the inside. Opposite. Down outside, up inside, down outside, up inside. Waking up the back body. Good. And then you're going to go down the front of the legs, up the back of the legs. Down the front of the legs, up the back of the legs. Awesome. You're going to rotate your wrists and ankles. You're going to make a little dance. All of our joints are so happy when they remember that to move in all the directions they move. You're going to knock in, that looked good, you guys, knock into the webbing of your fingers. Awesome. And then you're going to pull, like you're pulling energy out. Pulling energy out. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Now, I want you to go back to your starting position. Do you guys feel different? How would you language some of it? What words would you say? Tingly? Lighter? Illumination, that's a good one. Bigger. Taller. So all of those words are words associated with flow. Once energy starts to move through the body, basically the mind and body are, remember when you, hopefully, when you got up as a kid and it would just be like, oh my God, it's like, you know, whatever it is, it's like waffles camp, whatever it is. I mean, everything is so exciting. And our bodies are, bodies and mind are still waiting for that experience again. And if we keep waiting for things to happen to us to have this feeling, that could be a long wait. Because if we're waiting, then we're probably in our little tiny patterns. And sometimes our patterns can be want, but not get. That can become its own pattern. So these somatic exercises are super exciting. So now what I want you to do is quickly, this is worth it, we're going to hold tight to it if anybody's going to stop me. So you're going to come here. Everybody face a partner. Can everybody find a partner? Raise your hand if you don't have a partner. It's important to have a partner. You can do a trio. You can come up with us, or you can go over there. Okay. So you're going to go like this. You're going to feel heat in your hands, and then you're going to go like a foot of way, and then you're going to slowly go in until you feel your partner's heat. No, like before, we're going to feel it before we touch. So you're going to perceive. You feel that? So that's a partner's energy. So try it again and see how far away you can start to perceive energy. So we're going to go real slow till we... There you go. So this next one does require partners. So I'm actually going to give you two together, and I'm going to put you two together, okay? I feel like you guys are ready for the doctorate in connectedness, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to face your partner. And you're going to put your right hand on your chest, sort of like fingers up by the clavicle. Good. And then you're going to reach across and put your hand on your partner's hand. You too. Good. See that? Yeah. Good. Now, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to just sense for a second breath, maybe pulse. We yearn for human connectedness, meaningful human connectedness. Now, I want you to open your eyes and look at your partner and fall in love a little. Just hold the gaze for a second. It is so hard and so awesome. Tears might come up. That is your system saying, hallelujah, that's the connection I've been waiting for. And you might need to hug your partner because that was so awesome. Right. Or high five.
That's a nice break. Yeah.
All right, so everybody sit down, and I'm going to finish with a poem. It's probably like 10:30 or something. Sorry to your workplaces. I did craft my life, so I am my own boss. So this is Hafiz again. So let's just drop back into the space of listening. Feet on the floor, palms up. The more you practice this posture, the more you drop in quickly to a space of flow. This is called Cast All Your Votes for Dancing. I know the voice of depression still calls to you. I know those habits that can ruin your life still send their invitations. But you are with the friend now and look so much stronger. You can stay that way and even bloom. Keep squeezing drops of the sun from your prayers and work and music and from your companion's beautiful laughter. Keep squeezing drops of the sun from the sacred hands and glance of your beloved and, my dear, from the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. Learn to recognize the counterfeit coins that may buy you just a moment of pleasure, but then drag you for days like a broken man behind a farting camel. You are with the friend now. Learn what actions of yours delight him, What actions of yours bring freedom and love? Whenever you say God's name, dear pilgrim, my ears wish my head was missing so they could finally kiss each other and applaud all your nourishing wisdom. Oh, keep squeezing drops of the sun from your prayers and work and music, and from your companions' beautiful laughter, and from the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. Now, sweet one, be wise. Cast all your votes for dancing. There's so much love and flow and beauty here right now. So memorize that feeling. If you feel pretty fantastic in this moment, maybe you already have that life. Maybe it's just about creating a ritual where you just study the openness, the flow, the beauty of being in these human bodies. And then the world begins to match. Our narrative about our life matches the sensations we're having in our own body. If you don't like the narrative, you might want to spend some time in the most insignificant movements of your own holy body. And that's it. Unless someone would like me to marry them right here. Because of all the love. Questions, since I've run way up to the last second. Yes. That's a super good question. I think for a while it becomes, when I first got sober, I found myself moving away from certain situations that had been meaningful before toward I didn't even know. Like, that's what I'm trying to say, is that at first, when I was first practicing my own identity, my healthier identity, I needed to be fully reflected by people who were fully invested in me. And then I became to notice that even while my life was getting good, I had a mental habit of finding people to assign to be the judger who were not even interested in me. Now I feel like I'm working on being more magnanimous in all situations. And I meditate 6 hours a week. I mean, meaning that, whoa, does this brain need a lot of interior work? So it's sort of a little bit of both. I do know I can isolate very easily. And I know that also in the work that we do, like I'm really good at producing, managing, staying up here, doing all this stuff. But I am my best self when I'm in relationship to others. So I work hard on creating social engagements that make me feel like my best self. And then I work hard by meditating so I'm less likely to be someone I don't like. Anybody else? Yes.
We're all here to see you, so I think we're all a little open to what you are bringing. How do you work with a group that maybe is less open to what you are bringing to them?
I've not ever experienced that group. I work with homeless veterans. I work with business people. I make business people do that. You're all business people. See, that was a weird generalization. I feel like I just don't meet people who don't want to feel better. And when I started this work about 10 years ago, most people would say, because I think our world has changed. And about 10 years ago, when I started working with girls, people would say like, oh, I'll bet they need that. Like, and they would always be like, I bet those people need that. So depending on where you sit in the bleachers of life, there would be like, oh, first that might mean anorexic girls or obese girls or black girls, or because I was working with girls. You could see the projection. But now when I work with schools, when whoever I work with, people say, I don't even know what it is you're doing, but I need it. Because we are so stressed out, collectively stressed out. The burnout rate is so high. So I feel a real openness to it. Yeah. And often, and if I work with, like I have done enough work where I might work with a group of kids who have had significant trauma. And what I find is that the one sitting in the corner like this is the one who's like, when are you coming back? So I know now that it's not important for me to get a like visual confirmation that there's acceptance of some sort. I just keep showing up, and I feel like my real job is to basically hold the space of someone's awesomeness, you know, and not be, I'm here so I get to have it be about me, but it shouldn't be about, it should just be about creating experience. And on another note of that, I work in Cambodia every year with survivors of sex trafficking. And the first year I went, there was, you know, they're children, essentially, beautiful young girls. And it was very, it's always fulfilling, but the first year I'd have, you know, a little girl glommed on here, you know, giving me things. And I worked with homeless kids this summer, and it was the same thing, you know, here and on my lap. And it's very gratifying, and it does, and say in Cambodia, the girl who is not wanting to talk to me is actually developmentally in a more evolving. Sometimes being the person who is the person who needs the most attention, it's a part of their healing process, but so is the person who's putting up the boundary for the first time, saying, I don't even know you, I don't trust you. That is an accurate response. Boy, do I talk long. Anybody else? I have things to show in case, this is my sales pitch part. So, this super adorable little book, When We Are Quiet, is my first children's mindfulness book. It comes out this fall. Sharare Khosravani is a wonderful artist, Iranian artist, who I met when she was getting her MFA from DAP, and I met her at the CAC. Another artist said, you guys should meet, and then I got her to be able to be the illustrator of these, When We Are Quiet. And then I have, and some of these things I'd be happy to part with if you come up. Swimming Naked is my first novel, published by Viking a few years ago. It's still available. I'm pretty proud of it. What else do I have? City Silence, if you want these little brochures to help you learn a little bit more about meditation or how to come and hang out with me. And then these are also these awesome little 30-day journals that are embodiment and writing journals. So I would be willing to part with these things. You can make a donation, or frankly, you could just have them, whoever comes up first and gets them. So I think that's it, right? Oh.